told her my story about that. She told me she was going there. Gave her the pause and said, well, honey, that's okay, I understand. Just remember, under no circumstance will I ever go for a tire.
You should put it in writing.
Oh,
I should have
Well,
told her
that
that.
should be a problem, sir.
I'll support her except when UND claims to go for the hockey.
Judge Dave Wright's daughter is.
I would cheer for you,
Maybe UND will.
Yes, I know Dave quite well.
Actually, you and you
I like
How you doing?
they're off probation this year for their football program.
See, I ain't gonna sell this right here. Esther's not late yet.
That's right. Good point.
When she comes in, we ought to tell her, who do you think you are, the governor?
Yeah. Oh, ouch. That was the previous guy.
Oh, Dalrymple's on time,
Yeah,
we're going to
he's
everywhere.
very good, yeah.
He used to joke about dinner time.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I was wondering-
Always 10 to 12 minutes late.
I think with Ed it was 20.
Yeah, I think that's
They'll leave a salad by dawn. By dawn, by dusk.
My God.
That's trouble.
I'm serious, no.
It's Mr. Rex Evans, right?
Yes,
All right. Should we acknowledge you for the official record today?
probably don't have to, since I'm not here on the official.
warm right off the bat.
Yes. Wake up, this is, wake up all from
Schubert.
At some point, I'm just gonna make sure that this is running, but sure, I'll be out of your way. I don't know. It's for you.
Get my answer. I did. I didn't make two bonds of extra. No, you have to know what your default is. First of all, you got business. Yeah, you guys know. There is no default, so you can't release them. Well, that's where I say go back. Should be a seat for release. No, because there is.
6.
You're only releasing them from things they would otherwise be liable.
Anything happening in the future?
If they were otherwise liable. Now, if they're not liable, because the default happens later, you're not really releasing them. They're not liable, there's nothing to release them from. So I need to order at least 7. If you could have a bond change on August 20th, you could have a default on June.
All right.
Nice shirt there, Scott.
Thank you.
That's your
Pretty
color.
color, very pretty color.
Coral.
No, it did, because the default happened August 15th.
Nice.
We're talking, when was the
We're ready to go?
default?
All right, fair enough.
Okay, the bond says it was-
Good morning, this is Commissioner Brian Colquitt meeting on the 12th floor of the Capitol today for our bi-weekly meeting. It's August 29th, approximately 10 a.m. Open up to my colleagues that have no open comments.
So good morning, welcome everybody. It's a good day today in the Public Service Commission. A lot of good news items, solutions to challenges, so it's a good day. Welcome.
Just, I also want to echo that. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. We have a new staff member and a young man from Democratic Party here today. And press, everyone, welcome.
Very well. We have a variety of items on consent.
I move past the right.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on, item BK1. I move the commission adopt the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and order issuing certificate of site compatibility number 30 to Elite Clean Energy Inc., authorizing construction of its 100 megawatt clean energy number 1 wind project in Mercer and Morton counties of North Dakota, case number PU 11662. In October of 2011, Elite Clean Energy submitted a letter of intent to build a approximately 100 megawatt wind energy conversion facility in Mercer and Morton counties of North Dakota. In November of that year, we shortened the waiting period to 30 days and assessed the filing fee. The project will consist of up to 50 turbines and 100 megawatts of power. The approximate cost of turbines and final project will depend upon final project design to be approximately $200 million. In March of 2012, the commission deemed the application complete. In May of 2012, we held a hearing at the City Commission Room in Mandan at 9 o'clock. There actually was I don't believe there was one individual from public testimony, but the company presented their case. The wind farm will exist north of Glen Ellen, include approximately 12,000 acres, and the turbines are put in place throughout the site. This project was a little bit different than some of them we've seen. That they've not picked a final turbine selection. So when they briefed the case, they briefed it on the worst case scenario. It was the biggest turbine that was selected. So prior to the project construction, they'll tell us exactly what turbine they're going to build. So when they briefed the case, it was the worst case scenario on shadow flicker, the worst case scenario on any of the noise components, as well as any of the setbacks. The foundation will be typically 50 to 70 feet for the turbines. A 35.5 kilovolt collector system will transmit the power to a proposed Minnesota Power substation, and ultimately it'll get to the DC line that runs from Square Butte to Duluth, Minnesota. The 42% is the capacity factor of this wind farm. That's a little bit lower than we've seen in some in that area, but still well above what the country sees. There are no significant impacts brought up during the hearing as well as our questioning. There are no economic impact coal reserves below this proposed wind farm. It does exist in coal country, so that's one of the concerns we try to look at to make sure there's orderly development. State Historical Preservation Officer deemed this area as no properties affected. One thing, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service requested that the Elite develop a avian and bat protection plan, so they're going to do that during the construction phase and after that. There are no turbines that will be placed within 1,400 feet of occupied residence. Actually, the closest one to a non-participating landowner is 2,260 feet. Quite honestly, this was a very good hearing. The company that Elite does a very good job setting things up, and I didn't see any particular issues at all during this hearing.
This was, well, you just talked about no issues. I don't know how many hearings we've had now in Morton and Mercer counties for Elite, but we've never had a single landowner testify at one of their hearings, and they have put up now, we've now cited several hundred megawatts of wind capacity. You know what, that's interesting, what Brian highlighted was this up to 50 wind turbines totaling up to 100 megawatts, and as you said, they haven't chosen the turbine yet, but Elite is the one company in the state that has actually put up 3 megawatt direct drive turbines. The very first commercial turbines we cited were about half a megawatt. So you see a 600%, literally a 600% increase in the efficiency and productivity of the same footprint. So we don't know if these will be 3 megawatts or they might be 2, because they can have up to 50. So interesting. Of course, Elite Energy is the independent power producer in the area of Elite.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item VK2, I move the commission find the August 23rd, 2012 complaint filed by the North Dakota Public Service Commission advocacy staff states a prima facie case and serve the complaint on respondent Shores Companies Inc. in case number GS 12-31. This is a, once again, cutting ground on the potential violation of call before you dig. Shores Company is a Minnesota-based corporation with its main office in Evansville, Minnesota. And the company that filed the complaint, if you will, is Belle Fourche Pipeline Company, based out of Wyoming. In December of 2011, the PSC received a third-party damage complaint from Belle Fourche alleging that the Shores Company had not utilized North Dakota one-call properly. Based on staff investigation, Shores initially obtained a one-call ticket on October 14th of 2011. But on November 13th of 2011, Shores struck a line owned by Belle Fourche, causing approximately 200 barrels of crude oil to be spilled in Stark County 30 days after obtaining its one-call ticket. So our staff investigated the case, and quite honestly, Shores admitted that they were digging without a valid one-call ticket. The 200 barrels that were spilled have been cleaned up. We've got a case where the company, Shores, has admitted to staff that they violated the law, but they're not responding, quite honestly, to our inquiries. So with that, the staff recommended that we serve the prima facie case, and we'll set a hearing later on, and we'll issue the notice to them, and we'll see what the next step is. We'll also be scheduling a hearing later on today to deal with this matter if they don't want to go ahead. This is once again the first time the commission has done this, but I look forward to seeing completion of this. And one last thing, this commission staff recommends a civil penalty of $2,000. So when the hearing, if and when the hearing comes around, that'll be the recommended amount. The commission can, of course, raise that to $5,000 or lower that to any amount that we choose to. So look forward to the case being resolved.
All in favor?
Aye.
That concludes the items in my portfolio, Commissioner Cramer.
Thank you. First, I have a couple of, bond releases, which are always fun. KC1. I move the commission approve a bond release number 4 for surface coal mining permit number NACT 9101, held by the Dakota Properties Company for the Freedom Mine to release all reclamation liabilities on 448.6 acres of land located in section 21 T145N R86W Mercer County. The release will become effective October 1st, 2012, unless a formal hearing is requested.
Second.
As I said, we always like final bond releases. This has been quite a banner year for final bond release. The Reclamation Division did a fantastic job, as with the companies. We appreciate that. This particular release, Toll Properties owns all of the land that's included in the bond release application. just over 96 acres of reclaimed land is cropland. 98.5 is a native grassland. About 61 acres registered orphan spoil, and the rest are public right of ways, and then there's 187.6 acres that was not affected by mining activities. This land was initially disturbed in '92, and coal removal was completed by 1995. And of course, all the backfill grading and the reseeding took place after that. Of course, the cropland productivity standards are based on the pre-mine productivity of the soils that existed prior to mining. In the case of Dakota and Freedom Mine, we use 3 years of yield data that's needed to demonstrate revegetation standards. There's a different standard for non-disturbed land, but we've created a sort of a hybrid, if you will, of adjusted yield standards. And I like to talk about the yield standards because this is what's so very impressive about the work that the companies do. In this particular case, highlights it as much as any. 3 years that they chose to use for the standard are 2007, 2008, 2009. It's always nice when the standards are, of course, correspond directly, one right after the other. For 2009, just to give you a sense, 2009, the adjusted yield standard was 43.5 bushels per acre. The actual yield was 62 bushels per acre. The first year of the 3 years, 2007, the adjusted yield standard was 26.6 bushels per acre. The actual yield was 32.1 bushels per acre. Now that's pretty good. That's pretty good results, and it makes it easy for us to improve this tract of nearly 450 acres. Congratulations to the company. Well done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
KC2. I move the commission approve bond release number 5 for surface coal mining permit number NACT 9101, held by the Dakota Properties Company for the Freedom Mine to release all reclamation liabilities on 1,000.951 acres of land located in portions of sections 16, 17, and 18, T145 and R86W Mercer County. The release will become effective October 1st, 2012, unless a formal hearing is requested. And just as in the previous one, no formal hearing has been requested to this point.
Second.
Now this, because this is even much larger, this is just over 1,000 acres of land located in Freedom Mine. This one, the ownership is broken up a little bit. parts of, track 1 is owned by the North Dakota Department of Trust Lands, and then track 2 is owned by Dakota and Basin Cooperative Services, and then Dakota owns track in section 18, track 3. The proposed bond release tract contains about 237 acres of cropland, 313 acres of hay land, 146 acres of native grassland, and some wetlands and some developed water resources, road right away, all in this sort of single digits in terms of acres. It also includes, however, 257 acres of land that were not affected by coastal mining activities. Again, everything is in order. This was land that was initially disturbed in 1992. Coal removal was completed from 93 through 98, and then backfilling and grading was completed from 94 through 2000, and then the seeding and all that began. Again, just like the previous one, the adjusted yield standards and the actual yields, 2008, 2009, 2010, one track, 2007, 2008, 2010, and another. And again, the actual yields outpaced the standard, of course, every year, and in some cases by a lot. I mean, just to give you an example, 2010 in track 3, the adjusted yield standard was just under 38 bushels per acre. The actual yield was 50 bushels per acre. So again, well done. It's a great testimony not only to the work of our Reclamation Division staff and Jim and the gang up on the 13th floor, but tremendous, I think, testimony to the good work of the whole company. So appreciate it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I might just add that does bring total this year of final bond release to over 4,600 acres that we've released the bond on in North Dakota. So that's a good number, quite an accomplishment. And we're now at the point where we're reclaiming, releasing, and disturbing about the same number of acres every year, which is a goal I came in and we're aiming for, to be able to have that parallel line. So well done. KC3. Morgan. I move the commission acknowledge the letter of intent, shorten the 1-year waiting period between filing a letter of intent and the citing application to 30 days, and assess a filing fee of $80,000 due upon filing an application in case number PU 12656, One Oak Rockies Midstream LLC's proposed 100 million cubic feet per day gas processing plant, known as the Garden Creek 2 plant in Mackenzie County, North Dakota, case number PU 12656.
Second.
We've become quite familiar with One Oak, previously known as Bear Paw. One Oak, of course, operates the grasslands plant in Mackenzie County. That's been there for quite some time. And then, and that's right along the Montana-North Dakota border. In the last couple of years, we have cited 3 100 million cubic feet per day gas processing facilities that are being built or have been built by One Oak. This is the 4th one. The Garden Creek 2 plant will have a nameplate capacity of 100 million cubic feet of natural gas. They anticipate commencing construction on March 1st of next year with a completion date in the 3rd quarter of 2014. They estimate the total cost of constructing Garden Creek 2 at about $160 million. That's been right in the line with what the other 3 plants have been, so that brings somewhere around $650 million in total investment by One Oak just in processing facilities. They, of course, own a very extensive gas gathering line system as well as some short transmission lines to move the liquids to market and whatnot. So we're seeing, I think, One Oak somewhere around $2 billion or more of investment in North Dakota. We'd like to see that gas being gathered and processed and moved to market. It's a much better destination than flaring it, even at the very low cost of gas on the market today. When you live in a cold weather state, watching 30% of it being flared is hard to take. So we appreciate the investment by One Oak.
I'll just add on a little bit. The natural gas, it appears, is going to become the winner, I guess, in a lot of these developing issues. You see companies like One Oak collecting all the gas that will be good for the flaring. You see companies entering North Dakota that are potentially going to take the natural gas and convert it to fertilizer. You see some of the energy companies are now looking at natural gas. So I think that really the next big story coming out of North Dakota is going to be the amount of natural gas that we're collecting and using for other uses. So I think it's going to be good across the state. And as Kevin said, the less we can flood the better.
All in favor?
Aye.
That ends the items in my portfolio.
All right, Commissioner Finch.
I just have one item today. I move the commission adopt an order in case number GE 12691, canceling facility-based grain buyer license number 2089, issued to Senex Harvest States Incorporated, St. Paul, Minnesota, at the Starkweather, North Dakota location, and bordering that business at Starkweather, North Dakota, be discontinued effective immediately.
Second.
This is a federal location. The licensing division received a request to discontinue business from CHS for the Starkweather facility. The facility was operated under a facility-based grain buyer license. It is no longer receiving grain at this warehouse and it has been closed. I recommend the request be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that ends my portfolio for today.
Very well, I would just make note that Commissioner Fetch has established a record for the most items in the special meeting, which was the last special meeting, we had 13 items. Thank you, Mom. A couple notes, we have, this afternoon, we have 3 informals that'll start at 1:30, approximately 2:30 today, based on electrical coming in, giving the commission an update on the dock end, as well as we'll be scheduling a variety of meetings. The last thing, before we open up for questions, is a reminder when the Bison football starts this weekend. So, with that,
Will there be a lot of people?
with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
I just want to make sure I understand the significance of the elite action, given that they don't know how many turbines they're putting up. I mean, do they have site approval? Can they be in construction?
Absolutely. Before they can start construction, they need to file with the commission their final turbine location and the actual size. But in the process of the hearing, usually the company will brief a 1.5 megawatt turbine or a 3 megawatt. In this case, they still have not secured the actual turbine, so they brief the worst case scenario is if they would get all 3 megawatt turbines. And so they brief that based on the shadow filter, based on noise. And so the final selection, if they pick 3 megawatt, will cover there. If they pick a smaller one, the impact would be less.
But just so that I'm clear, they have permission to start construction as long as they file a plan beforehand as to how many turbines and where they're going.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Our site permits are good for 5 years, and then after which time, if they've not utilized the permit, then they can, or certificate, then they can come back and we can have it.
I think it might be 4 years.
It's 4 years.
But
Yeah,
either way,
Is it 4 years or 5 years?
It's 4 years,
Okay.
but it's plenty of time.
Did the company have to obtain any flicker waivers or noise waivers?
They did not. They did have all turbines both outside 1,400 feet, so they need
What's the significance of a 3 megawatt direct drive turbine?
The significance of a 3 megawatt direct drive turbine, a couple of things. One is it's very large, so it's quite productive. When you consider that the very early, I say very early, within the last 5, 6 years, most of the turbines going up were 1.5 megawatts. 10 years ago, even 8 years ago, most of the turbines were 0.5 megawatt turbines. Now we're looking at 3 megawatt turbines, so that the productivity of the same environmental footprint is significant. The other thing significant about a 3 megawatt direct drive turbine is that it's direct drive. In other words, it's larger, but it's also, I think, about 10 tons lighter. I'm not exactly sure how the direct drive turbines are working out, but so far we've heard no incidences.
Well, I guess, the significance of direct drive escapes me. Can you?
I think there was some noise discussion that potentially the direct drive might be quieter than some of the others, so that's what I recall in one of the hearings.
And is it more efficient as a power producer?
They say that it is, but, and it certainly would be, I guess, but, the engineering of it, I'm not an engineer, obviously, but, yeah, it's quieter, it's more efficient, it's more productive, and it has pretty much the same environmental footprint as a smaller turbine.
Does Elite have a customer for the power?
As at the time of the hearing, they had not secured a customer.
Is that a prerequisite for them to start construction?
Not for us, it's not. We issued the certificate based on our siting criteria, but for them, in practical matters, I think it would be.
Well, and Elite, remember, Elite Clean Energy is a non-regulated entity. So while Minnesota Power is the regulated entity under the Elite banner, this is a non-regulated entity. So they're an independent power producer looking for, to sell their product like anybody else. Obviously, obviously, the more customers they can find for the power, the more useful and the more efficient and productive that direct circuit, or that DC line to becomes.
How many turbines and how much power can they generate based on what they've got installed right now?
I know someone asked that, and I lost track of them. Jerry, how many? 300 maybe? Is there that many?
Geez, I think we were looking at about 300 megawatts, but I can check that number for you.
Okay, 300 megawatts installed right now?
Well, no, they're working on the last Bison 2 and Bison 3 projects now that they hope to be in service by the end of the year here.
And would that be a combination between a leak, clean
Yeah.
energy, and Minnesota? Or just a leak?
Yeah, that's not counting this latest project.
Okay, and this Bison 1's in service, Bison 2 and Bison 3 are not?
Yeah, they're under construction.
Okay.
And will likely be in service before the end of this year.
I imagine we can.
But let me
might
check
bet
that
on
number for you.
Okay. What, how good is a call ticket, how long is a call ticket good for?
It's good for 10 days. The,
Why 10 days? Is there a logic to that?
The North Dakota Century Code says it's 10 days. And quite honestly, last week I was up at Reservation Telephone, and we did a tour with RTC and the One Call Board. And one of the things that came out in that discussion is just your question, why 10 days? That was what was agreed upon when they agreed to the statute. But I think this next session, we might see some movement on the One Call law, where the tickets might be a longer period of time, because we're getting to now, we push so hard to have people using One Call, which is good. The companies out there doing it, RTC spent $400,000 last year doing One Call tickets. So we've got, the awareness is growing, which is good. But we might have to look at, the goal here is to protect the infrastructure. So if the One Call ticket is good for 15 days, is that really any more risk than 10 days? But in this particular case, we've got a case where they had a ticket in there, it was good for 10 days. They went into construction later and they hit a button. And there was, so it's, I don't think that's part of the issue in this case, but it's something that we're looking at.
What I'm trying to figure out is, okay, I go and get a One Call ticket, and it's supposed to tell me if there's pipes where I want to dig. I mean, unless somebody goes and throws in another pipe in 10 days or 15 days, why aren't they good for a year?
You know, Dale, here's what I think just the opposite occurs out there now with so much going on. That is that somebody comes out and they mark the pipe with the flags, and then another construction project is going on nearby, which there's a lot of them. So the flags get removed by a road grader or something like that, and then or somebody just leveling the land. I think that's what happens more often than the other way around. So you may recall a couple of years ago when the WPI line was struck and it created an explosion. That was exactly the case there. It had been previously marked. Other construction was going on in the area, and flags had been removed. And so while it had been marked, it was no longer marked at the time the backhoe operator struck the WPI line.
And is this the case here with this
I don't know.
case?
In this particular case, when staff looked at it, there was a One Call ticket that was done. The ticket expired, and the company continued construction without a valid One Call ticket, so that's the allegation. So we'll see what the case is.
Well, I guess what my assumption is that the first One Call ticket they got told them where the stuff was, and then when they dug, they hit the stuff anyway. And why was that?
We will have to wait and see how that all plays itself out. But one of the things that I think is interesting, when I first thought of One Call ticket, you think you call some number and one company comes out there and does all the locates. You'll have the pipeline company come out and locate, the telephone company will come out and locate, the electricity company will come out and locate. So it's a variety of groups that come out. So as Kevin brought out, you don't want those things to be too long, because elements take place and they'll show up. I think that nothing is marked and they'll start digging. So we've got to find that balance. Different states have different time frames, but I think 10 days is reasonable. But I think the whole One Call law, it's good that we perhaps look at this next session, because if there's ways that we can improve it, given the growth, and find that happy balance, I think is a good idea.
Do you think one of the reasons why there is a 10-day period is because when they come out and stick the flag in the ground, it doesn't stay there forever?
Yes, I think
Okay.
that's exactly why, given both our weather as well as just the volume of activity going on out there. Dale, one of the policy issues that was discussed in the last session that got shut down, that I suspect may come back up, is what's the responsibility of the excavator to first of all, mark where they want to dig, And then, and I think, what do they call it, white flag or?
White line.
White line. Let the utilities know where they intend to dig, and then the utilities can either confirm or deny that there's a utility under there. There's been some resistance to that, and somewhat, I think, because of the pace of activity out there. And so, but right now, as we say, safety first, safety first.
Can you tell me, you mentioned somebody spending $400,000 on one-call tickets. How do you,
Reservation Telephone Company, they spent $400,000 last year on one-call tickets.
how does that happen? What does a one-call ticket cost?
Well, I think it varies depending how far they have to go, but